This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms.
And then waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back.
Now Taxes is easily uploading your forms to a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation.
An expert who's backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back guaranteed, all while you just go about your day.
No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com.
Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees.
You better not have no plans tonight.
Movie time and it's feeling right.
You're looking for a love that lasts. You'll find it at Romancing the Podcast. Ooh, ooh, baby, you had me at hello. Ooh, I love you.
I know.
Ooh, ooh, baby, you're the wind beneath my wings. Ooh, ah, I'll have what she's having.
Oh, God, my back, my neck, my pussy, and my crack.
Wow.
Everything hurts. I'm old. Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Pod. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
And I'm Todd Schlosser. And this week, we made you watch
Dirty Dancing. This is going to be a quick episode. Not much happens in this movie.
Paige, a woman loses her virginity. Oh, wait, hang on. A girl gets statutorily raped, more or less.
Oh, yeah.
We should do trigger warning up front, maybe, for Dirty Dancing. But
hey, the dancing is dirty. The morals murkier. Okay, let's talk about it. Because we'll do it as part of First Thoughts. I saw this movie when I was much younger. Did not particularly care for it outside of the dancing and the soundtrack. I have owned the soundtrack for years. It fucking slaps. Go out and buy it right now.
Paige, I also have this soundtrack.
Yes.
Watched it maybe twice as a child and was like,
yes,
I don't know. It's a movie about dancing and a kid who's like banging her teacher, whatever. It's not for me. I actually completely missed all the class issues in this altogether. There's so much going on in this movie I missed the last time I watched this. I don't know, forever ago.
I was old enough to understand what was going on with the abortion part and some of the class issues, but not most.
Yeah.
And I will say, watching this today, I am further entrenched in my conviction that the sequel is a better movie. And even though this is classic, and I know it's the famous one, the soundtrack is great, the sequel fixes a lot of the things I don't love about this movie.
Is the main lead a child?
She is a teenager, but so is he. So they're the same age.
I'm fine with that then. Honestly,
right.
If Johnny was fucking 18, I'd be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and that's basically the sequel. You're basically describing the sequel. They are roughly the same age.
Yeah.
The class and political issues are much more stark in the sequel because they're in Havana, Cuba,
right.
At the same time. Also, I had fully forgotten that this movie takes place in the 60s.
Wait, really?
Yes.
I knew it was the 60s.
I had completely forgotten, and it's because the costumes and set deck did such a terrible job, and I stand on that.
Well, and also 2 songs in the soundtrack were released the year the movie came out.
Yes.
And they sound like every 80s song. It's synthesizer heavy is all I'm saying.
Oh, yes.
A synthesizer did not exist in 1963 when this movie is supposed to have taken place.
Not in the same way, yes.
Right.
You might have had an electric piano, but not that. Anyway. But the clothes are only the 60s when they want them to be.
Yeah.
Most of her clothes are 80s, hardcore. They just don't, it's not very consistent. It's hard to say that Grease 2 did something well, but they actually, at the same time, were able to emulate the 60s better. That's a crazy sentence to say.
Oh, I definitely think Grease 2 does a better job of making it seem like the 60s.
Like the 60s.
Yeah.
And here's what's really sad about that. As a 60s nerd, which I am.
Your house is mid-century, Paige. We know.
Yeah.
We know.
Love it. This particular type of 60s, because this would have been 60s leisure wear and activity wear is one of the most fun 60s clothing like genres. It's for people who collect 60s clothes, they collect resort wear. It's like a huge thing because it's so fun and cool looking, and they don't do any of it in this movie. And in the 80s, they probably could have bought it at a Goodwill. It's bonkers.
They probably could have found it at Goodwill because it was only 20 years ago, or it was actually 25 years ago when the movie came out. But still, like, what? Like, that's so close in time.
It's wild that they are not faithful to the time really at all in the movie.
Right.
That's not even the thing that bothers me most. The first time I saw this, I thought for sure that Baby was much younger. I thought she was like 15, 16, maybe even younger. And part of that, I think, is because she's played so naive. She's supposed to be going to college in the fall per this movie. And yes, I understand that she is probably sheltered to a degree because of her privilege.
Oh, she is very much. They do like a great job setting that up in the first like 7 minutes of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I get it. So I'm going to call her 17, maybe 18. I was 18 the summer before I went to college because my birthday is late. So maybe she's 18.
They say in the movie she's 17. So I'm assuming she's 17. Yeah.
17 then.
Yeah.
And I remembered Patrick Swayze seeming closer in age to her. He does not. It was real stark today where he's like, the movie is very confusing. There's a lot of things that just go unexplained.
Well, they don't even really address the age gap issue at all. Like, it's like,
they never
fine.
tell you how old he is, but it's a lot older than 18.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure. And even though they have so much chemistry, it gives you the ick in the movie. It's just, and the way he acts once they kind of get together, that he's just like, you're going to be my girlfriend forever, right? You're not going to go home. And you're like, oh no, this is terrifying. This is not good.
I actually really did love how they like really pointed out that she is in the class that does abuse specifically him in this scene.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In the way that she thinks he is like enjoying like sleeping around on the resort.
Right.
He flips it to be like, no, it sucks.
No.
Like, they don't love me.
I need money.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not even about the money, really. It seemed like he was like hurt many times because he would like sort of fall for somebody, even though she might be slightly older or whatever, and feel like they were going to like have a relationship. And they were like, no, you're just like the thing I hired to fuck me.
Yes.
It's
yes.
crazy. So anyway, I really loved that flip in that scene. I thought that was a great way to look at it.
Right. But that's one more layer on an already murky movie, because like we've got the overall class issues where this whole time we're dealing with everyone at this resort and all of the employees at the resort. And there's even stratification among the employees, which is a baffling addition to the movie.
I thought it made complete sense to me.
I understand why they do it, right? And I understand why that would happen at this time. I just thought it's an extra thing to have to remember as a viewer. That you're like, okay, they can't talk to, then those people can't talk to. And I was like, who can talk to each other?
I mean, it's really easy. The guests aren't supposed to like talk and fraternize with the staff and vice versa. That's really it.
No, it's not. It's not, because there's an entire scene in the movie where the guy who owns the resort basically is telling the wait staff, because the wait staff are all college students because they're the face, right?
Right.
So they're the ones that are getting tips. They're making everyone feel comfortable because they're all smart.
Yeah, I mean, that's the guy who's going to like go to med school. Like, I think it's Yale med school, Robbie or whatever. Yeah, the bad guy.
He's from Harvard. Yeah, the bad guy. The guy who owns the hotel literally tells them fraternize with the people's daughters.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he specifically tells them. But then the dancers come in, he's like, not you. And I'm like,
yeah, but that's like the social class of it all. So like anyone who's low class can't talk to the guest. And if you do happen to be in the staff that is like a fuckable staff member, cool.
Right.
Because you're going to college. Guys, go to college. Then this guy who owns this weird resort will let you fuck the patrons.
Will let you fuck the patrons.
That's worth the admission, right?
That's the aspect that's weird to me, is I'm like, he's telling them to.
Paige, it's all social commentary, baby.
I know.
Like, honestly, the part of this movie I loved, and I didn't hate the dancing. That's not what I'm saying.
Sure.
My favorite parts of this movie was when Patrick Swayze pulled up a stool and just spoke class to this woman. And I was like, fuck yeah, man. I love it. Patrick Swayze. Let's go.
I don't hate it. The only note I have for it is that some of those relationships and speeches are more earned than others. I feel like her speech with her father is incredible. That's one of the best ones in this movie.
Which one? I mean, yes.
The last one where she's like, I thought you told me to help whoever I could help.
Oh, on the when he's like at the gazebo crying like a little bitch, and he's like, man, maybe I don't love being a doctor. Maybe I need to give it all up and like be a cop or something. And so like she runs up
and join Law and Order.
Yeah, it's Jerry Orbit, guys. He was in Law and Order. Listen, if you don't get it, tell your dad the joke. He'll get it.
He'll get it, or me.
I know, or Paige, she gets it. But that scene it's really just her talking, but we're getting his reaction shots to what she's saying.
Yes.
And man, they're both crushing that scene. But yeah, of course she is. But Jerry's reactions to her, I think, are also super genuine and like you feel them with them. And I honestly understood the flip of it all when he was just like,
yes,
man, you were beautiful up there tonight. Like I love that.
Yes.
Especially because Dead Poet Society it's like another sort of coming age-ish tale.
Sure.
And it doesn't end quite the same.
Sure. I would say part of the reason those succeed is just because Jerry Orbach is such a good actor.
He's so good.
Like, and he's incredible in this movie.
Yeah.
And those feel earned and interesting. Johnny's sometimes feel a little bonkers, even regardless of the fact that he is speaking truth. Everything is true.
Yeah.
It's a little over the top.
It does sort of feel like it's coming from the Ancient Aliens guy. I'm not going to say you're wrong.
Yes.
It just comes out like frantic and ill-informed, even if it's like sort of right, if that makes sense. Even though Robbie is the asshole reading the Fountainhead like a moron, when he pulled that out, I was like, I hate him already. I hate him so much. This guy's going to lead the fucking Brooks Brothers riot. I hate this guy.
I laughed so hard when he went to hand her the Fountainhead. I was like, first of all, based on what we know of Baby, that's going to be her least favorite book. But secondly, ew.
Yeah, gross.
Gross.
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand.
You're gonna suggest someone read Ayn Rand?
I know.
No.
Now, here's another place in which I feel like you will really like the sequel, because in the sequel, she is from a rich family that has moved to Havana. Her dad's like a businessman, and they're part of like an insular kind of country club, and she meets a local.
Paige.
Yeah, it's so good.
Paige, you had me at Havana.
Havana.
I love salsa and Latin music. Like, that sounds amazing.
When they do their last dance, they are grinding on the dance floor.
Somebody call Calypso. Like, I'm sure it's going to be great.
It's so good.
Paige, this was, I will say, the first time I've probably ever seen this movie as an adult, because this is one of those movies that was so popular, and I grew up with older sisters, so there was no way it wasn't a part of my life somewhere. I do, in fact, remember being ushered out while watching it during certain scenes.
Sure.
Like, that's how early I saw most of the movie, right?
Right.
I probably saw the whole thing through and through, which is how I refer to movies, just like a bullet wound.
Through and through.
So I probably watched it through and through the first time in high school and never revisited it, because I didn't understand what was happening in the movie outside of this girl who looks like she's my age at the time in high school.
Right.
Looks like she's having sex with a guy who looks like my teacher.
Yeah.
So that's weird, right?
Yes.
But it is what it is. Having revisited it today, I actually liked it way more, even though in 2024 eyes versus when I was in high school eyes, we have changed a lot on what age groups are attacked. Like, I can date a certain age, right? So like mid-20s can no longer date 17, and like all of his friends be like, gross, no.
Yeah, you're right.
And maybe that wasn't the case in 1987, but it's changed a lot since then, because now it is very much gross, no.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the case in 1963 when the movie's set.
Oh, no. Although I did look it up just because, I felt like I owed it to the audience to know exactly how much jail time he would be serving. And that is 1 to 10 years, technically.
That's a long time.
But because New York, which is where they are,
yep,
their age of consent is 18. And they don't have any like
Romeo and Juliet laws.
Yeah, like the Romeo and Juliet law thing. I don't even know if it's called that everywhere, but like the Romeo and Juliet law thing, Where if you're within like a certain number of years over her age, you could still date her, or vice versa, him or whatever.
Right.
But like it's not even close to that though, because he looks 25 and she looks 17.
Oh, 25 is generous of you, I think. He looks like stone cold 30 to me. And that could just be the time. I feel like people looked older back in the day, regardless.
Yeah, skincare was just like a new thing, man, back in that back in the 80s, you know? Like, so yeah, 100%. I do think he's supposed to be playing mid-20s, from what I understand of the movie, right?
Sure.
But like, I do know that he was 35 when they filmed it. I think she was 28.
She wasn't.
I think she was. I think she was 28.
Let me pull it up.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
35 makes sense. He looks 35 in this movie.
I think he does too. And listen, it's Patrick Swayze, so he looks an amazing 35. Like,
he looks fucking hot as
Yeah.
fuck in this movie.
Paige,
which makes it tough.
She was 26. Jennifer Grey was 26. I'm so
okay.
sorry.
No, it's
yeah,
okay.
I was wrong by 2 years.
But still.
I mean, their age gap would be like 17, and he would be 25.
Yeah.
So I mean, but like his age is never said in the movie.
No, and here's the thing, because I know me watching the movie that she's not 17 as a person.
Right.
Like,
she's 26 when they filmed it, right?
She's 26, right?
Yeah.
I can still get into the chemistry, the on-screen chemistry of the movie. I can. What I will say, because I watched this and was like, that's right. I remember why I didn't super love this movie. As far as class issues, great. But not a great mix if you're trying to just have a romance. This is not an easy wipe your brain watch. You actually are, it's like dealing with issues. And if that's not the kind of movie you want, this is not the movie for you. But on top of that, it does all the same, I'll call them movie sins, I guess, of every other dance movie. And that's that a quarter or more of this movie is just montages, which means in a 90-minute give or take movie, I think this is an hour and 40 minutes, you're sacrificing character time and valuable story time. And when we're getting all of these lectures about the classism, which admittedly are great and good in the movie and done well, but it means we're losing time with characters to understand them better as characters within that system. But then the movie is also trying to cram 3 other tiny subplot stories into the movie.
Paige, there's a heist movie going on in the background of this movie that I honestly would love to watch.
Oh, so curious. So many questions.
Just like this older couple who's like on a, Heartbreakers style tour of all like Jewish resorts in the 1960s in the Catskills.
Honestly, good for them.
That sounds awesome.
They're like that couple in Les Mis that just like, watch them run amok, catch them if they fall. Just like ridiculous.
Oh, you mean Bull Rat and Tim Burton's wife? Yeah.
Yes. But that is a fun subplot. There's the whole subplot with the sister and Robbie, which like is literally just 2 scenes in the movie that they're trying to communicate a whole bunch and like not. And then there's Penny's whole arc that thankfully gets a lot more time so you can kind of understand. Because like when you want to talk about class issues, let's fucking talk about class issues in that one.
Yeah, she's involved in that too. Like we're seeing it play out from the gender reversed side of what Patrick Swayze is telling us.
Right.
They're not telling it. Well, I guess they sort of are, but it's more shown than told from Penny's perspective, right?
Yes.
The fact that she is just like used and discarded more or less on like lies and promises that were never intended to be backed up.
Yes, but not even just that. I mean, yes, that.
It's further than that. You're right.
It's way further than that because the movie introduces the concept of, let's for argument's sake say, had Baby gotten pregnant, there are different avenues open to Baby than there are to Penny. The movie can't get into it because there's no time. There's like that, but that's the problem I'm bringing up is that like the movie introduces a lot of stuff and it can't wrap a lot of it up because we have to have 30 minutes of just dancing. That is all fantastic and I love watching.
I know, it's so good. Like Patrick Swayze is legit a like classically trained dancer.
Oh,
like
incredible.
The dude is just great.
Yeah, but it just means that like something's got to go, right? If your movie's going to be 90 minutes, something got to go. I do think you could do a slightly longer version of this movie.
I would take a 2 hour and 2 minute cut of Dirty Dancing in a heartbeat. as long as she was like, I turned 18 in the summer or something. I don't know. I don't know why she's Southern all of a sudden, but you know what I'm saying? Like, make it age appropriate for now. Give me a 2 hour and 2 minute cut. Really delve into the social issues and let's go.
I'm looking up. Okay, so the sequel is about the same length, but that's kind of what I might almost take a longer cut. Which you know I never say that, right? Like
no.
I am a card carrying member of the 90-minute club.
I mean, that's so rare to say that. But we're just saying that honestly because we love the dancing. We don't want to lose the dancing. But to fit in the dancing, we lose some story that we actually kind of want.
But and that's the weird dichotomy with this movie is that like I feel like most of the people who truly love this movie are remembering the 30 minutes of dancing, which I get it. That's my favorite part of the movie too.
Yeah.
Love it. Patrick Swayze shirtless to Hungry Eyes every day and twice on Sundays. And they're like, oh my God, Dirty Dancing, a fun rom-com. And then you turn it on and you're like, oh my God, so many politics and a coat hanger abortion. and
literally that though. Like literally that
though.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, you could make it more of a drama and truly lean into the drama of it, but you need an extra 20, 30 minutes to really dial in some of the more serious story points and not lose the dancing. Or you keep it at 90 minutes, but you chop one of those extra storylines. Like there's a weird speech between the owner of the hotel and his band director about like, oh, the years gone by, the loss of innocence. I'm like, are we really going to try and get into this?
I loved it. Paige, I loved it because it sets up, I think, where the resort pivots, because that whole thing is like, kids today don't want a resort in the Catskills, which is not where they are, but that's what it is. And what they want is trips to Europe. So he's like, I got to find another like market to like get into, or we're going to go belly up. And I want honestly a prequel to this that's just about the guy who owns the resort and that
band leader.
That band leader, because like they seem to have the coolest friendship ever. And like the owner will come out and do tap dancing with the band leader who also does tap dancing. It's insane. Anyway, but they're like, well, how do we stay alive in this ever-changing world or whatever?
Right.
And then everyone starts freaking up on each other. And I think he has the idea of, oh, I got it. Swingers getaway. We'll be fine.
Oh my God. Okay.
Everyone needs a good pivot, Paige.
Musical at a swingers resort. What do we call it?
Oh.
Secrets.
Okay. So where I went to elope is a place called Secrets.
I know.
And honestly would recommend. It was great.
Hedonism tunes instead of two.
Love it. Yes.
Everyone gets naked at the end like hair.
Paige, before we start the movie, did you know after the band broke up, I wrote some pop songs under a different name with my friend Chris.
Majestic Swayze.
Yeah.
Yes. You spelled it wrong.
No, we did that for legal reasons, Paige.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it had to be a little bit different than the actor's actual fucking name. So yeah, double E, double the flavor. That's no joke. Why we did the double E was that line from that musical. Double the E, double the flavor. Anyway, I don't care if you've heard the song that's on Spotify.
I have not. I don't think so.
I had to dig deep to find this, quote, album cover. We released 2 songs. It was just for fun.
Sure.
But, in fact, here's a quick story about how we wrote the song that everyone knows from that group. We finished a country session early, and I had a vocal line in my head. And I was like, hey, can we write around this? And we wrote a whole song and recorded it in 3 hours, and that was it. Anyway.
Sometimes those are the best ones.
I thought so. One of my favorite songs I've ever written. Anyway, let me show you the album cover.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you describe what you're seeing there?
Well, it's 2 halves of heads.
Yes.
And it says Majestic Swayze across it. Yeah. It does look like you have what I would describe as frosted tips.
They are, yeah, that's fair. I would call them frosted. Now I would call them gray.
Sure.
But back then they were frosted. Yeah.
I don't know who did the Photoshop on y'all, but I know that this predates Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, no, it was on Facebook and Instagram.
No. Hold on. Let me finish my sentence. Photo filters.
Oh, yeah, Paige, for sure.
But it looks like you guys are both wearing Snapchat like Facetune.
Yeah. Well, okay, so candidly, I was wearing makeup for this shot.
Oh, it's clear.
Yeah. So like that's not Photoshop.
It looks good though. Like it's not bad.
Todd doesn't look bad with no hot pink lipstick now. Come on.
No, honestly, I'm here for the lipstick. What I'm not here for is that it has made the tones of your face look flat.
Yeah.
And honestly, you got to bring out them cheekbones, baby.
Oof. If I only could, Paige. But yeah, anyway, needless to say, this didn't take off. But I loved it. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, that's all that matters.
Honestly, it was just me and the guy from my rock band who I wrote all the songs with. And we were like, let's keep writing music and let's do something so different from what we were doing. So we wrote some Maroon 5 songs, more or less.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hard to argue. Songs about Jane, still one of my faves.
It's one of the best, Paige, literally.
Yes.
Check out Majestic Swayze on Spotify if you want to hear that song that we wrote in 3 hours. It's called This Time.
I'll check it out.
And it's fine. Paige, do you want to go through this movie scene by scene?
I do.
Let's do it.
We open on credits. Not much happens, but there are pictures and music, and so I'll give it a pass over just black text on screen.
Yeah, but the movie doesn't start for 2 minutes and 14 seconds in. Like, I wrote it down. I was like, this is just disrespectful of my time.
Well, the movie's going to continue to be a little disrespectful of time. But that's okay. It's a dance movie. That's what they do.
Oh, you mean because they put an 80s song on a record to play and then have that record be replaced with a record that was actually from the 60s? Like, that to me was hilarious. When you hear a song that was released the same year. Like, it doesn't even sound the same as the rest of the music in the movie. Anyway, whatever.
They didn't even give it a crackle so it sounds like a record.
No.
Like, nothing.
And it more or less, like, it should just start with beep, beep, boop, boop, beep, boop. Because you know it, like, takes place in, like, the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, it couldn't take place any other time.
Well, he just needs to flip it over. On the B-side, it's just do 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 do.
Honestly, it would be Rick Astley. It would be Never Gonna Give You Up for sure.
I'd dance for Rick Astley. Anyway, we open on Baby's family in a car driving to their, I guess, vacation destination. It's like a resort, but almost like a camp resort kind of a thing it's basically the Poconos, the Catskills, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, I got the vibe it was Catskills. They even mentioned, like, I hate the, like, climate here. This is why I'm never going to go to Niagara Falls for my honeymoon.
Yeah, because it's raining.
Yeah, but I think it's a made-up place. I might be wrong about that, but they don't say it's the Catskills or the Poconos, but that's the vibe.
It's supposed to be a stand-in for, I think, either one.
Yeah.
But we do know it's upstate New York.
Yes, exactly. That's how I looked up all my age of consent information that I will be peppering in throughout this recording.
Why, thank you.
But she does sort of really set the scene of, like, where they're going and who she is, because she says things like, it's almost sounds like she's, like, writing a letter to a friend.
You're probably wondering how I got here.
100% it is that. But her as a voiceover says things that, like, happen in the future. Like, JFK hadn't been shot, the Beatles hadn't come to America yet, and I thought I'd never find a guy as swell as my pa, or something like that.
Right.
It was like super like, oh, you are a child-ass child.
Right.
Although she does say she can't wait to graduate and join the Peace Corps. So she does sort of mention that she's going into her senior year.
Yeah. Well, and okay, then because her dad says that she's going to college in the fall, which
does she?
would imply fall, but then she does say graduate. So
I've only watched it once as an adult, so, like, I can't speak to every detail of it.
Yeah. Anyway, that brings up my second question that, regardless of how many times I've viewed this film, I have never been able to answer. Is Lisa, her sister, older or younger than her?
I think she's older. I got the vibe that she was 2 years older.
Okay. That was always my thinking. But when I first saw this movie and thought Baby was younger, thought she was like 15, 16, and that would make Lisa like a senior, like 18, that seemed to make a lot more sense to me, that she hadn't lost her virginity and was kind of still dependent on her parents and didn't really have any career aspirations or anything. It's way crazier if she's almost 20.
It was the 60s, man. Like, I don't think that was crazy. And also, like, if she's going to these types of places, and I'm talking about Lisa.
She's just trying to meet a husband.
Right. She is.
Yeah.
She might honestly have a secretarial job somewhere, or be going to school, or maybe she's getting into cosmetology or other avenues that were, unfortunately, the ones that were, like, available to women at this time. And her dad may have been just like, hey, happy to pay for you to come with us.
Yeah.
If you can get the time off work or whatever, or out of school, you're out of school anyway.
It's implied that she still lives at home, and we have no other character info about her, and she's definitely not in college.
Okay.
So, like, I think she's hunting for a hubsband.
I think she's definitely hunting for a husband, yes.
Yeah.
And I honestly get the vibe that that's her choice.
Sure.
I think someone needs to tell her, though, that, like, maybe don't sing. Like, you have other assets that are not
God.
singing, so don't sing. Like, just lean into what makes you unique and don't make that unique thing bad at singing, but does it publicly.
Oh, it's a lot. And no one ever tells her.
No, everyone's just so fucking supportive. And man,
Yeah.
they should not be. They shouldn't bully her, but maybe like be kind and be like, hey, maybe singing isn't your strong suit. Or is there a Johnny for like vocal arts at this Catskills style resort that she can sleep with to get better? I don't know.
Yeah.
At least she's over 18.
Right? Right. They arrive at the resort. We meet one of the bellhops who is Johnny's younger cousin.
Yeah, cousin. I got the vibe that Johnny has worked here since he was 16.
Right.
He's worked various jobs and is a great dancer, so they've let him dance. Because for an employee to like have the say of, I always have the final dance every season, like that dude has been there like for a long time and people know, love, and respect that man. Or else they'd be like, no, you don't. You're fired. I'm calling the cops.
So he does, in the scene on the log that everyone remembers, he tells her how he got into dancing, and it's that he tested into the Arthur Murray dance program, a program that still exists, and you can take ballroom dancing from them in all major cities. But that's how he got the job here, which means that he was probably 18, at least, I would guess, to get that job at Arthur Murray, maybe 16.
Yeah.
And has been the dance instructor here ever since, because they probably got him cheap and it was a guaranteed gig and he like kept working.
Yeah.
So that puts him at what, 26, 28 to like have that, authority, I guess.
Kind of pull. I mean, because at this point he's already fired,
Right.
Or at the end of the movie when he does that, he's already fired.
He's already fired. Anyway, she meets his cousin. I always found that cousin character to be kind of odd from a screenwriting standpoint because he is baby's age, give or take.
Oh, you mean because what we're essentially watching is this dude's creepy cousin, like older cousin, hit on his age-appropriate girl who, like, he is clearly interested in and even tells Johnny, she's here with me.
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Have you seen my leather jacket collection?
Oh my God.
It's amazing. And honestly, it is. Like, he looks great. I get it. Like, I understand. I can see both of these men with my eyes, and I know which one I'd pick.
Sure. Yeah. When he asked, what does he have that I don't have? It's like 2 giant sets of abs. Like, not the 2 hotels, just 2 abs. Just racks of ribs down the center.
That's literally human anatomy is what you're describing. Like,
That's
yeah,
exact-
that is accurate. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jake is making ribs. They're on the mind. Anyway, we also, and this is kind of a fun, interesting aside that we don't get a ton of in this movie, but Wayne Knight is in this movie.
I love him too.
Yeah.
He's so great.
As the comedian, and like I have worked and opened for some older Jewish comedians, and a lot of them got their start on the Catskills circuit and doing that job. And so that's something the last time I watched this, I was probably a baby at stand-up. I hadn't watched this in years. And so to watch it now and be like, oh my God, that's what so-and-so did. Like, that's how he like raised his siblings and shit.
Yeah.
Like crazy. But we only get a couple shots of him and it's bonkers. Every time we cut away from him, it's an insane non sequitur.
I always think of that person as like the town crier in a story, right? Or like the guy who stands literally in like a Roman forum and just shouts the news. Like that is Wayne Knight in this movie, sort of.
The herald.
Yeah, like a herald. Thank
the
you.
cruise director.
Yeah. He is very much the herald of this movie, and they use him like that. Like there are times when he has a bullhorn and he is shouting things that also are like the agenda for the day, but are also very funny things.
Oh, yeah. When he's like, wig, whatever they call it, wig club, wig party. I was like, what is this?
It's a swingers resort, Paige. Come on.
I'm telling you, though. Anyway, so there's a merengue class in the gazebo taught by a former Rockette. This is Penny. And none of these people can dance except Penny. Penny's an incredible dancer.
She is. And she's actually, I don't know if she acted a ton, but she does a great job acting in this movie. Like,
oh, she's great.
both Patrick Swayze and her, like, they're so good at dancing and great at acting. It's like crazy.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, she has them like pick a partner. She ends up dancing with her dad, all kinds of stuff.
But I think that scene really just serves to show that, like, Baby doesn't really know how to dance.
Right.
Like, she's there to say yes to life and, like, do the activities or whatever.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really care. Like, she's just there to, like, whatever and can't dance. That's really all you need to know about her.
Yep. But she creeps out later that night to go just kind of explore
Yes.
the grounds, if you want to call it.
I wanted to point out the music as she's, like, scampering across, like, the property is a piano version slowed down of I at the Time of My Life.
Yes,
And
yes.
she, like, scampers over, and this is where you meet Johnny for the first time.
No, not yet.
I know, but
Oh,
that's
yeah,
where that's where it leads,
kind of,
right?
yeah.
And you sort of talked
Yeah.
about that scene earlier, and we'll get there. But, like, that's where she's going as it's playing that, and I was like, oh, the foreshadowing of it all. I love it.
Because she goes up to where like the dining hall is.
Yeah.
And sees through as they're having like an employee meeting. And this is where the owner of the hotel is basically like, bang all the daughters.
Yeah.
Like-
The owner is more or less like, since you guys are from the same social class that I'm from, fraternize the fuck out of everyone here.
Right.
But if you see anyone of a lower class, like fucking dirty entertainers, tell them they can't fraternize with the guests and report it if you see it.
Right.
And that's when Johnny comes in looking like a freaking badass in his like leather jacket and shades.
Oh.
And you're like, how is he driving at night in sunglasses?
Well, with a broken window too, because he
hasn't broken it yet, Paige. He has a fully functional car up until this point, but it doesn't end the movie that way.
He's gonna.
But the owner like pulls him in and is like, hey, don't you fuck any guests. Like, it's like really aggressive about it. I was like, damn, like I see Patrick Swayze too. And you know, if Patrick Swayze want to knock it down, he probably going to have the opportunity to knock it down. So your best bet to guarantee Patrick Swayze isn't going to lay most of the women at the resort is to make it in his best interest not to, because the man's hot.
And the movie hints at it. It doesn't outright say it until the very, very end of the movie. But what is going on is that Patrick Swayze is sleeping with many of the women that take dance classes with him, which are the wives of the friends of the guy that owns the hotel.
The resort bunny.
Yes.
Or that's the one character that like personifies that group, right? And it does make it clear that there's multiple different women that do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think there's probably a little bit of that loaded into this argument here.
I definitely think so. I think this does a really great job of setting up that social class though.
Yes.
Of like, you can't talk or even associate with the guests. They are way above you.
Right.
And the sad part about this is Johnny's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You don't know his worth yet, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, at the end of this movie, he's going to jail. So it doesn't matter. But whatever.
Do you think so?
Yeah, in the 60s, probably not. But if Jerry Orbach wanted to press charges, yes, he would go to jail. I looked it up. At the time, it was illegal.
Oh, for his daughter.
Yes.
I was thinking for the robbery.
Oh, no. I mean, it's discovered almost immediately that he didn't steal that stuff because they solved the caper. Like that,
Yeah.
We are not watching the whole movie. But Patrick Swayze for the statutory would do 1 to 10 years.
Right.
If they press charges. The thing is, the law has been the same this whole time, but
Yeah.
it was up to the family of the victim to
press charges.
to press charges. And unfortunately, it was way more normal for someone in their mid to late 20s to be dating a 17-year-old like in the 60s. That sucks, but that's true. And so like he probably wouldn't have gone to jail at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It still happens too.
Yeah, because it is up to like the family. And I guess maybe at the end of this movie, Patrick Swayze is trying to dance so hard because he knows if he can convince Jerry Orbach that he is just like the best dancer, that he won't report the crime that is committed and he won't have to go to jail. So he is like dancing for his life. I'm going to echo the shit out of that.
But she overhears this. And we then cut to dinner because it implies was before dinner. So like the sun is set, but dinner hasn't happened yet. So we cut to dinner with her family later. And this is where she and her dad actually have some conversation here about world issues. They're clearly keeping up on it. He's excited about her joining the Peace Corps. Like they are clearly, I would say, kindred spirits. And their arc as a father and daughter is one of the best, most fleshed out character arcs in the film.
I really do love it. And I do feel like, I'm not saying every family is like this, but I feel like her family is like this. The mom, who was also like the
Yes.
grandmother from Gilmore Girls, sees Lisa as like, this is me as a kid. Lisa is me as a child. And Jerry Orbach sees Baby as him as a kid. Like they share more commonalities between them than Lisa and the mom, right? So I feel like he is harder on Baby on some level because of that.
Because he sees himself in her, yes.
Yeah, man, he really delivers that emotional turn so well. And most of it happens in the scene where she's just talking to him in the gazebo.
Yeah, and he has no lines and still crushes it, yes.
I know. And when he comes and sees her at the end, though, based upon what you saw in that scene with the gazebo, you're like, oh, it makes sense that he's like on board.
Yeah.
Because in the scene with the gazebo, he does not have the context of Robbie was the person that got her pregnant.
Right.
Not Patrick Swayze. Patrick Swayze was just like helping out his friend.
Yeah.
And dancing partner. Like, that's it. And so Jerry Orbach was like, oh, fuck, I was so wrong.
He was the one actually helping people, not hurting people. Yes.
So like in life, you want to find people and surround yourself with people who are like creators or givers or whatever, not takers.
Right.
And he was like, oh shit, Johnny is like, he's a giver, man. He like wants to help those around him.
Yeah.
And Robbie is the opposite of that, even though he was born into a different social class. So I'm going to snatch away the big ass tip he was going to get or whatever.
Hell yes.
I loved that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to give him an end of the summer tip. I love that too.
Yeah. But anyway, I sort of really love Jerry Orbach in this movie. It's great.
I do think you're right. And I do think it is very much like they have common personalities and the mom and the sister have common personalities.
Yeah.
I do think as I've gotten older, I find that there are just certain aspects of my personality that align with either parent, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where there's not just one, but it's like there are parts of you that you're like, yeah, that's dad, and that part is mom. I think it kind of gets a little blurrier. And sometimes you're like, oh, that's grandma. Like, okay.
Yeah.
But I do think that paints a really interesting picture for later when he kind of gets mad and the mom pulls him back. Because I think in some ways the mom is like, she's doing the girly thing and I understand this part of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's unspoken, but it's actually really well done.
Yeah, I think it is.
But this is where she meets Neil, who is the son of the guy that owns the hotel.
Yeah, Kellerman, Neil Kellerman. And the whole place is called Kellerman's.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, his dad is the guy who owns the place.
And he is instantly, no. We're not featuring him.
My favorite part actually happens later when he like is just bragging and is like,
yes,
some magazine or whatever called me the catch of the county. And I was like, in no county would they call you the catch unless you were a fish. Like, there's no way that you would be the catch of the county, sir.
Well, that's also where he has the, like, what does he have that I don't have? 2 hotels. Like that kind of, you know.
A man who is so willing to rest his accomplishments on the back of his daddy. Like, it's gross. He is literally sitting on his dad's back bragging about everything he has.
Yep.
I hate it. I hate him. And I got why she wasn't, like, even though clearly willing to start being sexually active, was like, no with you forever, sir.
Yeah.
Someone find me a leathered up dancer.
Ooh, yes.
Those of you who are paying attention to the news will not be shocked to hear that I was thrilled when NordVPN reached out to sponsor the show. Because let's be honest, between hackers, data breaches, and whatever fresh nonsense our new techno overlords are pulling this week, having a VPN is basically as powerful as holding a boombox over your head in a rom-com. And thankfully, NordVPN is the best in the game. Here's the deal. NordVPN encrypts your internet connection so no one, not hackers, not your internet provider, and definitely not a 3-letter agency that rhymes with NSA, can snoop on what you're doing online. And with over 7,100 servers in 118 countries, you can change your virtual location with a single click. Honestly, it's super easy. I've done it many times. Which means, yes, you can finally access that one streaming service that only seems to work if you live in, like, I don't know, not the South. Plus, one NordVPN account protects up to 10 devices. So whether you're scrolling, streaming, or desperately Googling, is falling in love with my sworn enemy a good idea, you're covered. So do yourself a favor. Go to nordvpn.com/romancingthepod and use the promo code romancingthepod for an exclusive deal. That's nordvpn.com/romancingthepod. Protect your data, unlock your content, and keep romancing the pod.
Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Pat.
We're from Seek Treatment Podcast, and we're here to talk about Blue Land. Do you know what I'm so about right now, Pat?
What? Tell me. Do not tell me.
Well, ready for this? I just heard that we're eating and drinking roughly a credit card's worth of plastic a week. Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God.
I know. The products we're using are contaminating our water supply, generating hundreds of microplastics that we're eating. So here's the good news. You're never going to believe this. Blue Land is doing something about it. They're eliminating the need for single-use plastic in the products we reach for the most.
From cleaning sprays to hand soap, toilet bowl cleaner, and laundry tablets, all Blue Land products are made with clean ingredients that you can feel good about. Blue Land is trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine. That's correct.
They offer refillable cleaning products with a beautiful, cohesive design that looks great on your counter. And refills start at just $2.25. You can even set up a subscription or buy in bulk for additional savings. I used my Blue Land spray today. I cleaned my dirty yoga mat with my Blue Land all-purpose spray today. It smelled good. It got the job done. And the bottle looked beautiful while doing it.
Blue Land has a special offer for listeners. Right now, get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/save15.
You won't want to miss this. Blueland.com/save15 for 15% off. That's blueland.com/save15 to get 15% off.
Anyway, we cut to dancing after dinner. And this is where Mr. Kellerman tap dances a little bit along with the band leader.
Awesome.
But this is also where Patrick Swayze and Penny do the mambo, and they're dancing in the middle of the floor. And it's basically like, see them dancing, you want to take dance lessons with them. And they're supposed to then split and dance with other people, but they don't like dancing with other people because other people can't dance.
Right.
And so
I do think it's a little crazy that the guy who I think is managing the artists or the dancers or whatever, comes over and is like, stop dancing. And I was like, they're doing the best commercial for the services you're trying to sell.
Oh yeah.
You would be, if I was their boss, I'd be like, oh shit, they're popping up. Hey guys, check out what they're doing. You can pay to learn how to do this at this resort. Instead, he walks over and is like, fucking stop doing the thing I paid you to do. And that to me is a crazy choice.
Well, and here's the thing. I think part of that is tied to the idea of this being a nice family joint.
Oh yeah.
Because
for sure.
I'm also looking at this and I'm like, look, if you don't think I don't want to stone cold bone Patrick Swayze after watching this, I'll pay for whatever dance lessons you want. Yeah, just spin me around like that, please.
Right. If you could get Vivian Pressman's leg in as high of a position as Penny's gets on Patrick Swayze,
Ooh.
She'd pay you whatever you asked. And her husband, strangely, would also be on board.
Oh, I think he wants to watch. We'll talk about it when we get there, but he's fully aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. He definitely knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a magician, there's a talent show, variety show kind of thing. She wins a chicken, baby wins a chicken.
Yeah, she volunteers, or sort of is voluntold by Neil the douche to participate and help with the magician show. And so we see her get sawed in half. And then for being sawed in half, this favor she did Neil, they give her a lifelong responsibility in a goose. I'd be like, I don't want a goose. I mean, it's cute, but that would be winning a dog for whatever. I love a dog, but that's a responsibility. That's thousands of dollars in bills you've given me, sir.
It is definitely a chicken, not a goose. That is a very key difference.
Oh, I was just saying whatever. It's a poultry item. I don't want anything alive as a gift for a favor I did you. Stop giving me responsibilities, dude.
Especially when I'm away from home and my home is in New York. Like the city. What's she going to do with that chicken?
Are you going to fly the chicken home, Neil? Neil, get your head out of your father's ass. This is insanity.
I assume they would have driven it, but I don't want to be in a car with a chicken for however many hours it's going to take.
Paige, the joke was that she was going to fly on the back of the chicken home.
On the back of chickens don't fly.
That's the joke, Paige.
Foolishness.
I feel like you have this disability where you can create sarcasm, but you can't understand it when it's said at you.
That's not entirely true. I would say I have a litany of successes to prove that's not true. But I will say that if there's multiple sarcasms going on at once, I pick one.
And honestly, we were like 5 or 6 sarcasms deep, guys. We were
There
in
you
a
go.
sarcasm. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, she's not going to fly home on the chicken.
Chickens can't fly, Paige.
Chickens can't fly.
Fucking King Hodder really self-interested. Like he's obsessed with
Oh
himself.
my God. He wrote his entire autobiography about himself. We've been looking at getting chickens because I don't know if you know, but for the price of 1 carton of eggs in Los Angeles, you could get 3 chickens.
I honestly am just looking forward to those prices just cratering like they were promised. And
Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
no, of course not. Of course not.
We've got a yard, can't have chickens. So we're looking into it.
Do it. Yeah, do it. Honestly, we don't have eggs in the house because they'll kill Natalie. So like
That's right.
Yeah.
We eat easily 2 to 3 dozen eggs a week in our house.
that honestly, that's just good. You guys are just eating good, man.
We're just eating good.
I like eggs.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I remember somebody, a friend of the family, being like, "Yeah, we realized we were eating like 2 dozen eggs a week," and I like thought about it, and I was like, "Oh, we definitely eat 2 dozen eggs because we eat eggs almost every morning. Like, however many I'm eating plus Jake plus whatever I'm baking." I was like, "Oh yeah," like, and it's gonna add up, and so maybe get some supplement with some fresh ones, and we'll give them fun names and shit.
Paige, you're talking to someone whose neighbor has chickens, and I have on multiple occasions gone over there to protect their chickens from the like hawks that fly by until they set up like hawk prevention.
Oh, I know. We're gonna have to, I don't know how much possums can hurt chickens, but I think that's our main predator threat in the neighborhood is possums and cats.
Well, if you need some help with some hawk prevention, I can give you some good advice.
Is it just chicken wire basically?
No.
Above them?
Can I tell you?
Yeah, tell me everything.
I don't know if I should say this. So they got owls, like wooden owls they put up on their fence.
Oh, okay.
That looked over, and the chickens were still getting attacked. So Natalie and I would run over there and like save them and whatever. And then because the chickens are actually hard to steal if you're a hawk, but they would like swoop down and like grab them and like do damage to like their butts and stuff. Anyway, so like the only thing that worked was an wacky inflatable arm guy. I am not even joking, Paige. I'm not joking. It is running 24/7 next door.
How many chickens do they have? I'm curious.
I think 8.
Okay.
But
that's
like
really
just wacky inflatable arm guy. When I go out on my deck to like take my dogs out every morning or whatever, like I look over and I'm like, hey, there's old Bluey.
whatever works though, man. Whatever works.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't even care. Like you can't hear it when you're inside. You can definitely hear it when you're outside though. But I don't even care. I don't want those chickens getting killed. So like, great.
Yeah.
I love that I can look out back and it looks like we're having a sale on used cars.
There you go. I'm just realizing, so we were in San Diego like probably almost a year ago at this point, and we stopped at this place that does a bunch of pottery, imports a bunch of pottery from Mexico, and they had this really cool 70s looking owl. And it's all supposed to be garden pottery, but I was like, I like that owl. And so I put it in our house. And I'm just realizing that's probably what it's for. It's probably supposed to go outside around chicken coops and scare things away. So maybe I'll just go get more of those.
Yeah.
Anywho, after she wins and I assume gives back that chicken.
Oh, you mean the goose? Yeah.
The goose?
Yeah.
Oh my God. The Shooter McGavin's in this? No, she walks late at night. She's just kind of wandering around and runs into Johnny's cousin, whose name escapes me, who has the biggest watermelons I've ever seen. I've never seen watermelons that long.
They are big watermelons. You're not wrong.
They're big old long melons.
And she follows him to where he's taking the melons.
Right.
And she's carrying 2 of them. He's carrying 2 of them, which means I guess he was carrying all 4 by himself. Insane.
He had 3. She takes 1, but still, yeah.
Oh, okay. Either way, he ends with 2.
Yeah.
And he like backs up to the door and kicks it with his foot to open it. And it opens and he literally juggles those watermelons for like 6 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he was just trying to save the shot.
Yes.
Because he was like, oh shit, I'm dropping the watermelons.
Because he's in the background.
You see real panic on this man's face. Like he's been yelled at 6 times because he's been dropping the melons or whatever. And man, he holds it together and he is just so proud of himself. And honestly, Johnny's cousin, I'm so sorry. He swoops in and steals who you wanted to become your girl. But you crushed it in this scene. Well done.
Crushed it. But this is a part of the resort where there's no guests allowed. It's basically employee quarters.
Yeah.
And this is where they are, air quotes, dirty dancing, but they're kind of like grinding. It's a little closer, a little more intimate, a little rougher, a little sexier.
By the way, for those of you who are yelling at us that his cousin's name is Billy, you're right. His name is Billy, Paige. Sorry.
Billy?
I looked it
All right,
up.
Fine, whatever.
But yeah, this is where they're more or less like doing the twist, but putting their privates together. It's like that kind of dancing, which is like awesome.
Yeah.
Get into it.
I have a friend who, just to gross me out, refers to sex as grinding privates, but I do think that that's exactly what is happening in this film at this point.
Yeah. I mean, we see them doing it. Like, yeah, they are just like, but they're just honestly dancing like people do.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I'll say they're dancing way better than most people do. I've been to clubs, Paige, and no one's dancing this good. They're dancing this dirty, but not this good.
Not this good. Man, I will never forget in Kansas City where we watched that one lady who was with some sort of gentleman friend or partner who definitely wanted Mikey to be involved somehow, where she ran and like
Paige.
King Kong wrapped her arms and legs around another guy on the dance floor, some other dude, and was literally like undulating and grinding on him mid-air. And I was like, the core strength of this lady wearing no bra, which I'm like, don't your back hurt, girl? Like, I've been there. Like, oof.
Paige, if I had described the actions,
the athleticism
that you just described to me, but said it was an orangutan to a tree, that's the same. It looked the same to me. Like, just arms and legs around it and then just like sort of humping it. It was not appropriate for the dance floor.
No.
That's all I'm saying. But honestly, thrilled it happened.
I was thrilled to watch it. The man it was happening to did not seem quite as thrilled as we were, because we were like, what? And he was like, huh? Like, I don't think he anticipated it.
Pretty sure that wasn't the guy she came in there with.
It was not.
Yeah.
That guy was watching and cheering them on, which is why we formed our thesis that perhaps they were in search of a third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we ran into the Pressmans at the club. Like, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Anyway, this is where we get a lot of exposition because Patrick Swayze and Penny, Johnny and Penny, show up and they're dancing and it's incredible. And this is where conveniently Billy is like, man, you'd think they were a couple. And Baby's like, they're not? Like, what?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, not since we were kids. But that basically lays the foundation for they have been friends for most of their entire lives.
Probably when they both started working here during the summer.
Right. And are not together romantically, but they are best buds.
Yeah. And they may have been like maybe the first summer because, listen, they probably were the two hottest people at camp, you know?
Yes.
And so they probably did hook up quite a bit that first summer. And then they just realized we're not for each other romantically, but man, you're fucking awesome and I love you. Like, you're great.
Yeah.
But like, no hard feelings on either side. And they're just really good friends.
Always fun when that happens. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's great.
I have two friends like that where we're all still in the same friend group and they have remained friends and we're all still friends and everyone knows about it. That's always kind of interesting, I think.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's great. To me, it seems like maturity. Like, that's great.
A mark of adulthood, if you will.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Patrick Swayze goes to basically pull Baby out to the floor to teach her how to dance.
Right.
And I remembered from when I watched this when I was younger, I always thought she was chasing him the whole movie. And it seems a little more mutual.
They do sort of position it that way. Up to a point.
Yeah.
Because like, I think she does sort of follow him around the camp initially.
Sure.
Only initially. And there's definitely a crush from her side because she keeps putting her in a position to be around him more.
Right.
But I definitely in this scene and what you're talking about shows that like he swooped in. Like he was like, I want to meet this girl.
Right.
Literal girl. And so he pulls her away from his cousin who was more age appropriate and literally just said earlier in the scene, she's here with me.
She's here with me.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I carried a watermelon. And this is the point at which I was like, oh, this is kind of ick, but like, all right. Then we cut to the next day. She has a good time dancing. We cut to the next day and this is the wig show and they're like announcing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But this is where she sees Johnny hand something off to Penny and Penny's the one kind of facilitating the wig show. And she asks Penny, she's like, you're a wonderful dancer. is it true you were a rockette? And she's like, well, yeah, my mom kicked me out at 16. And, basically, we don't know why, but like, I'm assuming because her parents did not value dance in her life. And she says, I envy you. And she's packing a suitcase. So it's like, baby fully doesn't understand what's going on.
No, I got the vibe that like she may have learned to dance under very different sort of circumstances because of when she was kicked out.
Yes, a different kind of dancing is what one would assume.
And I assume that she also loves dance and got trained in that because we see her do that a lot and is very good at that. But for baby to hear what she's saying and then be like, I envy you is bonkers behavior.
Bonkers.
But it just really shows her innocence and like she doesn't really know anything about the world.
Right. She has no idea that what Penny is essentially communicating to her is like, I was kicked out of my home and then I probably stripped a bit.
Yeah.
And like Johnny probably helped her out of it. Like that seems like whatever their relationship is. Anyway, we cut to that night where Johnny's dancing with some of the older ladies. This is where we get the whole thing about the like, resort bunny.
Yeah.
We meet Mrs. Pressman or whatever.
Yeah.
But this is where Neil comes up and he's like, where's Penny? People are asking for her. And he's like, she needs a break. And he's like, all right, as long as it's not an all night break.
Yeah.
And then Neil steals baby away. Baby could not be less interested in Neil. And actively communicates that she's just like, I think my parents are like, I don't want to.
It's crazy to me that she even goes with them with how disinterested she is with him when they get to wherever they're going.
Right.
Like when it cuts away from the table they were at to where they went, it's just like her looking out, I think, over the water away from him as he talks to her.
Yes.
So she is with her body, just like,
no,
shut up, Neil. And he won't shut up. This is where he says, the county said I was the catch of the season or whatever. I was like, oh, barf. I hate you.
The catch of the county. But this is also where he says, what does he have that I don't have? 2 hotels. And he's bragging about a girl he banged the week before. And I'm like, no. But I think the only reason they're out there together is so that she can see Robbie and her sister.
Yes.
Where the implication being, because we just see them kind of coming out of the woods. And her sister's like, I don't hear an apology. And he's like, then go back to your mommy and daddy and keep listening because I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Robbie's a fucking villain. Like, Robbie's the worst.
And her clothes are a little disheveled. It seems like
he took too far.
Yes.
Took things a little too far.
Like they were maybe kissing consensually or something like that. And he pushed it further than she wanted to go.
Right.
And he reacted very negatively to that.
Yeah.
Because Robbie's a monster, which from this and the fact that he reads and suggests the fountainhead.
Yeah. Later in the movie, yes, in a couple scenes, because Neil takes baby to the kitchen, and who should be crying in the kitchen that Neil is oblivious to but Penny.
Yeah.
And so Penny goes and grabs Billy, who grabs Johnny. They all come back. And this is where Johnny has to be like, Penny's knocked up. What don't you understand? And instantly, like, baby is like, well, okay, are you going to take care of it? And he's like, it's not mine. Like,
right.
What the fuck? Like, why does everyone think that I would be this much of an asshole? And she's like, no, it's fucking Robbie's. And she's like, oh, well, Robbie's got money. Like, he'll help. Like, he'll be fine.
Robbie was literally just bragging about how much money he's making in tips. Like,
yeah,
this is great. Best case scenario. He'll pay for it.
Right.
And the back alley coat hanger abortion that they do in this is $250, which if you translate that to today is like almost $2,600. Like it's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. But I also think that before they bring up the abortion option in this conversation, baby is talking about this as if Robbie's going to like raise that baby.
Oh, and she might be like she is very innocent and naive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So she needs the 250 because there's a doctor coming through town next week. And so she's like, well, I'll go talk to Robbie about it. I'm sure Robbie would, pay. She goes to Robbie. Robbie is immediately awful. And he's like, I don't even know if it's mine. She's banging everybody, which we will find out is not true at all. But even if it was, what a horrible thing to say to somebody. And then he recommends the fountainhead. And he says, some people count and some people don't. And I'm like, throw the entire man in the trash.
I mean, he
this
is reading The Fountainhead. That's literally
Yes,
Ayn
yes.
Rand's like thesis statement.
Ugh.
So yeah, I get that he's a bad dude immediately.
Look, and if you've read The Fountainhead and you thought Ayn Rand even believed an iota of what she wrote, she ended up on welfare in her later days and was still telling people that charity was a bad thing. And I'm like, it's a clear case of like, it's fine when I benefit from it, but I don't want to extend any courtesy or empathy to anybody else. It's full trash. Throw the whole thing away.
Yeah, it's almost like conservatism has like a baked-in morality issue.
I mean, that particular brand, absolutely.
Yeah.
But she then goes to her father and is like, will you lend me $250? He's like, that's a lot of money. And she's like, I can't tell you what it's for, but it's to help somebody, I promise. And he's like, is it illegal? And she's like, no.
Which it fully is by 10 years. Roe v. Wade hadn't happened yet.
Well, but here's the thing. Pre-Roe v. Wade, abortion actually existed in a weird limbo where it wasn't officially illegal necessarily. So this was definitely not legal, but there were debates about how it could be prosecuted. It's a whole thing. It's bad all around. It's still not a good thing. It is something that many doctors at the time would consider unsavory. Although, if you want to get into the history of abortion, it is fascinatingly tied to both class and gender issues, where part of the reason it was made illegal in a lot of places was because midwives used to do it and they weren't allowed to be doctors at the time. And so men who were allowed to be doctors didn't want it cutting into their business. There's a whole, like, definitely read up on it. But at this point in time, it did exist in a murky space.
I mean, in so much as that it was illegal, and if someone decided to press charges, you could go to jail.
You could, yeah.
But like it was maybe not prosecuted as much, but it's still illegal.
Yeah.
Which is like the way it is now in a lot of states.
Yeah, in a lot of states, which is why like reproductive rights are so important, because very easily what happened to Penny could happen to literally anyone. Literally anyone. Many people died the way that Penny is injured in this movie.
I mean, I see news articles all the time from women dying now because they can't get health care.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sure that happened in the 60s a lot.
Oh my God, yes. And this is where, and the movie doesn't have time to get into this really, this is where it is a class issue, because even at the time, there were places where you would go and get a more reputable abortion. Joan actually explores that as an option on Mad Men, only a couple years off from when this would be taking place. And the difference is, if you were moneyed, you had the ability to pay for the discretion that it took to have that done safely. And if you did not have money, you ended up in Penny's situation. And so that's why there's this argument of like, oh, well, you know, people of a certain class or breeding don't do that. That's a poor person issue. And I'm like, no. People of a certain class will always have the capability to do this. Like, when abortion was outlawed in multiple states, I would always say, I'm like, rest assured that any congressman's daughter in those states will be able to access free and accessible abortion because of who they are. And they'll be able to keep their secret and go on with their life. And like, it is actively happening in this movie as well, because as we will find out, her father, who lends her this money and is moneyed, he is of the richer class.
He's a doctor. Yeah.
He understands how to treat her, which means it's not his first time. It's not his first rodeo. If he has not taken part in one of those procedures before, he is aware of how they work and is aware of how to treat someone who has had one that did not go well.
I mean, he did his residency. Like, I don't know that he might not be that kind of doctor now.
Right.
But he definitely has done that kind of work in his residency, and it may have been years and years and years.
Yeah.
And so like what you're alluding to may be true. Like he may have been involved in that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he definitely would be trained into how to help for sure.
Yeah.
But I want to say this about what you were saying about like the abortion stuff. Guys, check out the documentary The Janes on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
Or I guess it's Max, but it's an HBO production. It's great, but talks a lot about abortion at this time and a bunch of badass women who like did some awesome stuff. Anyway.
Yes.
But he's a doctor. It's fine.
It's fine. Anyway, so she takes the money. She gives them the money, but she's like, I can't take it because the only appointment is on Thursday, and that's when she has to go dance at the other hotel. thus begins the main conflict of the movie. And it took us 40 minutes to get to it, to like what the thing is going to be.
Right. And honestly, like what the thing is going to be right in this moment actually happens at the midpoint of the movie.
Right.
Because it's 2 days later. And she, like, we get a bunch of dancing montages where she's learning the dance, but it's just 2 days later.
I think it's actually a week.
Oh, is it?
I think it's a week. And the only reason I say that is because they said there's a doctor coming through next week.
Oh, okay.
Which makes me think it's the following Thursday, but that's still only like 7 days.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot.
Yeah.
To like learn how to dance and then learn how to this dance, you know?
This dance.
Yeah.
The 365 this dance.
How dare you?
Yes. But this is the part of the movie that everyone remembers is her training for this dance. A dance that's going to happen in Act 2 and not even the like denouement of the movie.
No,
it's
the denouement of the movie, if we're just going to like make up words, Paige, is a dance that they've never done.
Never done. Never rehearsed.
Paige, they thriller dance up the aisle.
Yeah.
Something they've never rehearsed. Loved it.
And was not popular at the time, but also it fucking slaps.
Yeah.
Anyway, no one else can fill in. Baby's going to fill in. And this is where Penny's like, you're a strong partner. You could lead anybody. If you can at least just teach her to stay on beat, like, she can do it.
I mean, Patrick Swayze actually comes up with the idea as a joke. He's like, what, are you in a dance with me? And she's like, I could. And the cousin is like, I guess since she's not going to be like with me because you swooped in. Yeah. Maybe it's not a bad idea, cousin, who I now hate.
Hungry eyes. Because this is the Hungry Eyes montage.
Yeah. But it's them like learning the dance. The merengue, is that what they're doing?
No, this is the mambo.
The mambo, that's right.
This is my dance space. This is your dance space. But they're rehearsing. She is getting incrementally better. And I do think that this montage does a good job of showing incremental improvement, which is something that Step Up was not great about because it mostly just stayed bad the whole time. And then they'd end the montage and he was good. And it was like, no. Like the passage of time and incremental improvement, that's what we're trying to show. This movie's pretty good about it.
Channing Tatum was just learning how to act in that movie. We're going to have to give him some grace.
But
I do think a lot of the like iconic shots that you think about from this movie are from this montage.
Yes.
Of her like dancing over the bridge with the greenery behind her. And you see her in different outfits, so it's clearly like different days, right?
Yeah, very 80s.
Very super 80s, yeah. But like that's when I think about this movie, I think about those shots. Like I remembered those shots from when I was a kid.
Right. But she, at one point, they like fall over when they're trying to do this one move, and he's like, "Are you trying to like break my neck?" And she's like, "No, I'm just trying to do this, but I'm overwhelmed. And I feel like I'm not doing well." And he's like, "Okay, let's get out of here."
At this point in the movie, I feel like she starts to assert her agency and like what she wants.
Yes.
And I think the rest of the time she has put herself in situations and then gone with what anyone else suggested in the scene, which I honestly think she wanted to end up here.
Right.
But this is the first time she like asserts like what she wants.
Right.
And I like, hell yeah, come into yourself. Let's do this. Like,
let's do this.
Be a real person.
There you go. And he's like, okay, let's get out of here. So he breaks the window of his car because he locked the keys in, which is bonkers.
Truly insane. That is a huge red flag, guys.
Yes.
If a guy locks his keys in the car and doesn't calmly escort you back in and then call a locksmith, but instead kicks out a pole, like a PVC pole in the ground, and then breaks his like window, that guy's got like anger issues. Avoid that guy.
Yeah. But this is also where we get the other iconic scene of them dancing on the log.
Yes.
And then doing the lift practice in the water, which is actually brilliant because it means you can fall as many times as you want to and not get hurt.
Yeah. It's also like from the lower part of the lift, if he's underwater, she's actually easier to lift until you actually get her out of the water. And then because she's wet, she's heavier.
Right.
But she's like 85 pounds in this movie. She is so like tiny in this movie. So he's fine. But they actually do like, and I hate that she's 17, guys. I'm sorry I'm saying this.
They've got chemistry.
They do have chemistry.
Got chemistry.
Like, I don't know. It does seem like she was super into Patrick Swayze. And I feel like Patrick Swayze is putting off some real Han Solo, I know energy. But I do see some chemistry in this scene. I do feel the movie like does a good job of building the chemistry between the two leads.
Yeah. We then cut back to the resort, basically the day of.
Yeah.
And they're like fitting her for the dress, and they're like, you're going to have to change in the car. And as she and Penny are kind of negotiating and walking into the, resort to kind of like talk about dress stuff, they run into the Schumachers. And Mrs. Schumacher drops her bag. There happen to be wallets in it, but they don't really think anything of it. They just help her, pick up her bag, and she's off to the races wherever she's going to go.
Yeah, maybe she's like a purse collector or whatever, or pocketbook collector. Who knows?
Who knows?
This is the heist that's going on.
The heist. But then Penny, as she's helping Baby into the dress, basically says, like, thank you for helping. Just so you know, I don't sleep around. Whatever Robbie told you, I thought he loved me and he didn't. And I'm so sad that this turned out this way, but like, thank you for helping me. And then she just says, I'm so scared, which, like, knowing what's going to happen, just heartbreaking. So sad.
People died often doing what she's about to have done. Like, it is not a routine, like, I'm going to the doctor for healthcare type thing anymore. Or back then.
Not at this time. Yeah, or anymore. Anyway.
But I really like that they do that. I think that this conversation with Penny, like, Baby starts to sort of understand like the stakes of it all, really.
Yeah.
And I think that this whole story is very much a coming of age for Baby. And I think that these are like the moments when she's like learning about life because her parents did not prepare her for what life is like.
Yeah, not at all. But we cut to the performance that night and it goes okay. She does miss the lift.
Yeah.
But overall, it goes all right.
It seems like she like misses the first lift and then doesn't do the second one right. So it's more of like a like up and down immediately.
Yes.
But like she does a fine job. Like this girl's been dancing a week and is really just doing her best, guys.
Sure.
Because she is like doing the steps and she just seems very like wooden, like very stiff, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's way unlike the way you see her at the end when she's just crushing it, right?
Right.
I think she does a great job of showing the growth in that.
Yeah.
Like, I think her performance in this is great, and this part of it is great. Because she not only is dancing at a pretty high level, but also dancing at a high level kind of badly so that later she can show you she's gotten so much better. And that's like great. I love it.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
But in the audience, she sees Mr. and Mrs. Schumacher and is trying to avoid looking at them because she knows she saw them earlier and she can't have anyone know that she's there.
Right. They don't want that getting back to the actual resort they're staying at.
Right.
Kellerman's or whatever.
Yeah. They drive back and she's changing in the back and he's actually watching her in the rear view.
Yeah.
A bit. This is where the shift comes of like, she's not chasing him. It is mutual at this point, I would say.
Oh, I think from the moment he grabs her hand and takes her away from his cousin.
Yes.
That's when he starts chasing her.
Yeah.
And I do think when they're actually like learning the dance, he is pretty focused on like learning the dance and teaching her the dance and stuff. But once the lift scene happens in the water, that's when it's like, oh, I might have to do jail time that we're not going to discuss in this movie. Yeah.
But as soon as they get back to the resort, Billy is there and he's like, hey, it's Penny and she won't go to a hospital because if she goes to a hospital, she'll go to jail. Because this is what I mean about the murky legalities of like, if you're found out as a woman to have engaged in a procedure like this, you could be held liable. If you're found as a doctor to be completing procedures like this and it goes wrong, you could be found liable. If it happens and nobody calls foul, you're probably okay. It's like a real murky, but because it's going badly, it's kind of like going to the hospital with a gunshot wound.
Yeah.
They're gonna call the cops.
The cops are going to have questions because technically what you've done is illegal.
Right.
Right.
Now, if she does not get medical help, she will die. Absolutely, that is the stakes of the scene. And Billy tells them, he's like, I tried to get in there to help, but he was like supposed to be a real doctor. He wasn't. He had a dirty knife and a folding table.
Yeah.
And it's bad. And I'm sure that's a horrifying reality I don't want to envision for anyone.
But we don't ever really hear anything about it except for that.
Right.
Because it's positioned that he was like locked out of the room and could not beat the door down, but wanted to because it was that painful. And like there was no anesthesia. It was just like.
Yeah, there's no anesthesia, nothing, just screaming. Crazy. And so Baby immediately goes and gets her dad because she understands the stakes of like dead.
She literally wakes him and grabs his medical bag and he doesn't. This is why I kind of like love Jerry Orbach at every step of this movie with the information that he has.
Right.
Because in this moment, she's like, Daddy, wake up. And he says something to her and she says something very quietly back. I'm not even sure if you can hear it.
Is it Lisa? And she says no.
That's what it is, right? But he sees her grab his medical bag. And so he gets up and puts on pants.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, let's fucking roll. Like, I know what's being asked of me and it's an emergency, so let's go.
Right.
And I sort of love that he is that stand up of a guy. And it makes me understand why he like respects Johnny at the end, even though there's no way he's going to let them actually date. You know what I'm saying?
Never. They're not going to end up together ever.
He might not press charges, but he's not going to let them date. But I understood why he like has that moment with them. Like he does respect him.
I also always appreciate the way that he treats Penny.
Yes.
In the movie.
Always kind.
Because he is always kind to Penny. Because he gets there and he's like, you're going to be okay. We're going to give you stuff for the pain. It's all going to be all right. He's mad at Johnny because in this scene, as he's treating Penny, he thinks that Johnny enabled the back alley version of this and his money went to it and he's pissed about it.
Well, and he thinks Johnny's the dad. He's like, not only did you use my daughter and my money to pay for this abortion that you caused.
Right.
And then use my daughter for cover and like all of that for the dance. But like now I have to come and clean up your mess. Like he's so mad at him and nobody corrects him, which I think they maybe should have.
Nobody corrects him, which drives me nuts. This happens multiple times in the movie where people have the chance to correct him and no one does.
Yeah, like in this moment, Johnny could be like, hey, I love Penny. This is not my child. We are not together. Please understand that. Okay, let's restart the scene, guys. But like nobody does that. And then he finds out from the guy who does it and then immediately shifts his perspective on Johnny. And I love that.
And I do love that he's like, in his mind, the crime committed here was that Penny did not receive
adequate medical care.
100%.
Yes.
And like, because he's like, you left her to that butcher. So it's not the act. It's that you put her in danger by doing this, right? You could have done a bunch of other things. You put her in danger. And I would worry that you would put my daughter in danger because she would be afraid to come to me about that kind of like, I understand with the information he has, his dislike of Johnny.
Yes.
100%. It does frustrate me that no one in the movie, all of who know the truth, tell him the truth until like very end.
Yeah. It literally is Robbie who gives it away.
Yeah. And I do love that he snatches the money back from Robbie because he's just like, fucking, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And Robbie's, well, we'll get there. Let's table it. Because I got a lot to say about that.
So they leave. And as soon as he won't shake Johnny's hand, he takes baby away and he's like, I don't want you talking to them ever again, and take the makeup off your face before your mother sees you. I'm not going to tell your mother this happened.
It is very much the I am so disappointed in you child scene. And I like, man, it's so sad for her. And he's like, take that makeup off and go to your cabin. I'm going to bed. I'm not going to tell your mom this. And she immediately goes and gets plowed by Johnny. So like, I guess it doesn't matter what he says anyway. And I kind of love that.
Honestly, no notes. But this is where, because yes, like she then immediately sneaks back out and goes to Johnny's. And this is where I sent you a video from way back in the day there were a bunch of web videos and they redid a couple different scenes from a couple different movies. And I don't remember what the other ones were, but this is the one that stuck out in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's Channing Tatum doing this scene with Charlene Yee.
Yeah.
But my favorite is that like they took just like teeny tiny granules of weird from this scene and made it even weirder in that video where he's got like discarded boxes of jujubes everywhere because they're like, one month I'm living on jujubes, the next month somebody's putting diamonds in my pocket, and it's absolutely bonkers.
The dialogue is crazy. And this is like when you were talking about where he's talking about class, but he's like crazy. He's like all over the board talking about it. Because I was eating jujubes one month and now they're shoving diamonds in my pockets. That's like actual dialogue.
I'm balancing on shit, babe, and I can be right back down there again. And like, here's what triggered the memory of that video. Because the video uses the exact dialogue. It doesn't change it at all. It's word for word. And I was like watching this and I was like hearing Channing Tatum say it. And I was like, wasn't there? And that's when I went and found it for you. My favorite gag in the Channing Tatum version is he spins Charlene Yee. And then there's this scene where in Dirty Dancing, Johnny takes off Baby's top. And Channing Tatum goes and takes off Charlene Yee's top, and there's an identical top underneath it.
Amazing. That's amazing.
I'll go ahead and post it in the group when this comes out if I remember.
Do it. Yeah, do it. It is very funny.
It's so funny. But that's because this scene is bonkers and over the top.
Yeah.
And so they do dance. It is so hot. Like, I know she's 17 and it's awful. In my mind, I'm like 26.
Just whisper to yourself she's 26 and he's 35 as you're watching this scene. It's the only way you can get through it. But at the end of this movie, when Jerry Orbach's like, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. And I respect you. But
however,
I gotta introduce you to my friends Benson and Stabler here from SVU.
Don't.
Yeah. This is the 1960s, Paige. You couldn't even say Dick Wolf on TV.
They had to have two separate Dick Wolves for husband and wife. They didn't even show a Dick Wolf on television until I Love Lucy or whatever.
Dick Wolf is the guy who created Law and Order, guys. It's a really nerdy joke. I'm sorry.
Get into it. Anyway, that was one of my favorite roast battle jokes that I wrote was a Dick Wolf reference. And Coach T had the Law and Order sound ready.
Hell yeah, Coach T. Hell yeah.
On his soundboard. So when I hit the punch, it just said, sexually based offenses. Go. I was like, yeah.
Well, that's what he's going to be charged with at the end of this movie, Paige.
Yes. Now, the next day in the mess hall at breakfast, Jerry Orbach's like, we're going the fuck back to New York City, like as soon as possible.
Well, because Neil comes over and he's like, oh, the big show's on Saturday or whatever. And Jerry's like, we're leaving tomorrow. And then like the wife and Lisa are like, oh, I thought we were going to stay. And Lisa's like, I was going to sing either I Feel Pretty or something else that is terrible.
Yeah.
And that's what the one we hear later. And that's when not Jennifer Grey, but Baby is all like, wait, we have to stay. Can we stay? And so he's like, fine, we'll stay.
Fine. We'll let that guy impregnate my daughter too.
Right.
Like, that's the underlying context.
If I didn't keep secrets from my wife, I wouldn't be in this predicament right now. Like, he's only like, he should just tell his wife what's going on. And then she would be like, we need to leave immediately.
We need to leave.
Because Johnny Appleseed is also the dance instructor, Johnny, from this. And the Appleseed is going to be implanted in our daughter. We got to get out of here, guys.
And fully from this point till like the end of the movie, they bang in on the reg.
Yeah.
Like daily.
He's also wearing like a pot on his head. It's very strange.
It's real strange.
Anyway, but no, they are like banging at every opportunity they can bang.
Right. Where she's like, I'm going to go play charades. No, they're going to go bang. But this is when like they're in bed together and she's like, have you been with a bunch of other women? Because she's young, right?
And it's clearly like her first time, I assumed.
One would assume. It's not entirely clear.
Not that time, but the first time with Johnny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they say, but
they don't say.
It's positioned in the scene that like he is way more experienced where this is concerned.
Right.
And she's got questions.
Sure. But this is where he's basically like, yes, however, the power imbalance made it complicated.
Yeah.
With the ladies.
Yeah. He's like, let me explain classism to you in a way that also skirts the fact that I am an adult and you're a child technically and doesn't address that power imbalance.
Sure.
The one I'm talking about does exist, but I am also going to explain it in a way that ignores the disparity between us that gives me more power over you in this situation. I thought it was very funny, but he's not wrong. He is also a victim of this classism, and she is of the class that abuses his class.
Right.
So he is not wrong to see it this way. And he fully is about to have his heart broken again as he's carted off to jail.
Right.
Because there's no way they're ever going to be able to be together. This movie does not set it up like they're going to be together forever at all.
I do think, and not to keep bringing up the sequel, this is one of the places where the sequel does a better job of like a clean break of like, we cannot be together. We will never see each other again, but I love you. But this time in our lives is over.
Yeah.
Bye. Tragically and traumatically. But anyway.
It's the before sunrise of it all.
Oof.
Should have stopped at one movie.
I don't know. I haven't seen the other ones.
I actually sort of like it as a trilogy over time. It's kind of cool.
Anyway, we cut to her with him in the dance studio. Hot. Again, super hot. But this is where Neil interrupts them and they have to pretend like they're having actual dance lessons.
Man, baby like switches into dance lesson dancing so fast when Neil comes in. It is clear they had a conversation before they started dancing like this. Hey, if someone comes in, turn around and pretend like you're like dancing into the mirror and I'll turn the music, right? So it looks like we're doing a lesson, right? Because the second that door opens, she's like spinning around and he's walking away like two detectives from SVU walked in.
Right. But this is where Neil is like, I want you to do a different dance. Man, just like an executive trying to tell the creatives how to create.
The funny thing about this, though, is he's like, and I'm going to make up dance names, so forgive me. But he's like, we always do the merengue to close the season. What if we did the Pamchenko twist or whatever?
It's the pachanga. You were close, though.
Whatever. The Pachenko twist is from Cutting Edge, but
yes,
the difference there, I'm sure there's a difference. They both sound like their old style of dancings. You know, it's not like a new updated dance like that he is doing and loves doing.
Right.
It is like another old stuffy kind of a dance.
Yeah. He doesn't want to do it. Oh, well, he wants to do his new stuff, but he's going to do whatever Neil wants because he needs the job.
Yes.
Because otherwise he has to go paint houses. But as they're kind of walking back and talking about it, she sees her dad, sister, and Robbie on the trail and they hide. And for him, it's that instant of like, you're hiding me from your dad.
I felt terrible for Johnny in this moment. As someone who, like, in high school was dating girls of a different social class than me, like, I got it. What happened to Johnny in this moment, because, like, they didn't want me to meet their families, really.
Right.
Because I wasn't an option that was, like, long-term for them, and they knew that.
Right.
It was real gross.
Right. Now, real gross. Ultimately, I will say the last time her dad saw him was during a coat hanger abortion. So, like,
well, during him fixing the ramifications of one, yes.
Of a coat hanger abortion. I could maybe understand.
I'm not saying it's good. You're right. Yeah.
We need to do some, like, you know, reputation repair, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
But we cut to them back at the employee quarters because she's gone to basically apologize. And because he was like, you were never going to tell him, basically.
Yeah.
But Robbie catches her there and there's a fight about it.
Well, yeah, because Robbie's there to like be an asshole to Penny.
Yeah. We cut to rehearsal for the end of the year show. Her sister is rehearsing and it's not going to help. She bad. Her talents lie backstage.
Or just in a different realm. Like, Honey might be smart as shit, but Lisa can't sing.
Maybe she could be an accountant, but like she cannot sing.
Yeah.
Baby's working on props. But this is where we see one of the women, Mrs. Pressman, come up to Johnny and essentially attempt to purchase him as an escort is what happens. They do not say it in as many words, but that is the transaction that is happening.
It is so implied, it might as well take place on a boat.
Yeah.
Like, that's how implied it is.
Yes.
And the husband's like, hey, I'm going to be at the card table all night, AKA the closet in our master bedroom.
Right.
I want you to give my wife some extra dance lessons, and hands him like a wad of cash.
Yeah. Could you specialize in the horizontal hula? Like that's the implication that he is being like,
whatever you do, don't check the cupboard.
Yes. And he turns it down. He's like, I'm booked all week because he gonna be with Baby.
Yeah.
But as Baby's kind of getting ready to go out for the night, her sister is like, I'm gonna actually go all the way tonight with Robbie, and he doesn't even know yet. And she has warned her sister about Robbie. It doesn't matter. Her sister's dead set on it. Gross.
Real gross. Especially because we know his pullout game is super weak.
It's super weak. His pullout game, his futon game, any of the games. It's bad. Don't engage in them. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
That's why they call him Lazy Boy, Paige.
Hey, because he's going to coast on his family's millions. But we cut to, she goes to visit Robbie and finds him in bed with who? Mrs. Pressman, because Johnny turned her down. She had to do something while her husband was playing poker. She found Robbie, which thankfully saves Lisa from Robbie.
It does, yes.
But it also means that the next morning when she comes out, Mrs. Pressman comes out, she spots Johnny and Baby.
Right, because Baby's also doing a walk of shame. And so she oversees, or Miss Pressman oversees Baby's walk of shame. I don't think Baby sees Miss Pressman, though. But it doesn't matter. The damage is done.
Damage is done because Mrs. Pressman is jealous. And so she essentially blames Johnny for her husband's missing wallet.
Because he knows he can't be honest about the alibi to cover it, right?
Right. But as they're talking about it at breakfast, this is where Baby is like, fuck it, I don't care if people know. I can't let this happen to him. I'm willing to burn bridges and like hurt my family so that the truth comes out, essentially.
Well, and damage her reputation and like, yeah, this is like a pretty selfless thing she does.
Right. And she's like, I know it wasn't him. I was in his room all night. I know it wasn't him.
Right.
It's these other people. And so we get to that speech with her and her dad where she's like...
Oh, before we get to that speech, can I say one thing?
Yes.
Because it drives me crazy about the scene before it. Because they're talking to Neil's dad, the owner of the place, right? And he's sort of laying out the scene of what they think happened with Johnny stealing the wallet, right? And she says it was the other older couple. I bumped into her and she had a bunch of wallets in her purse. And her dad's reaction to that is really shitty because it's like, you can't accuse innocent people.
Right. And they just did. Yeah, they just did it.
And they just did that about Johnny. But because these two people are of the same social class, or at least are performatively so, they're like, you can't talk bad about people like that. And she didn't, or without evidence. You can't do that without evidence. And she didn't.
She didn't. She had more evidence than they did. Yes.
She literally was like, I bumped into her and she had a shitload of wallets in her purse. Maybe check her purse. Why do you think they know where to go to just like follow up on it?
Right.
Like, anyway, like it's insane to me that Jerry Orbach handles it that way. Although I think he's still mad at her about the night before, or not the night before, but the, him having to come out and fix the stuff. So whatever, like I get it, but like it's real shitty.
It is real shitty. But she then comes out and they have this talk where she's like, I told you I was telling the truth because I'm trying to do the honest thing and he doesn't deserve to be blamed. Everyone deserves a fair shake, but you're saying it's everyone like you. And just because he's not from Harvard or whatever, like I'm not proud of me lying to you or whatever, but like I'm just doing what you raised me to do.
Yeah, she literally says that. She's like, you taught me that everyone deserves a fair shake and everyone like deserves to be helped. And what you actually meant was everyone like you deserves those things. And I get that I may have disappointed you, but you have disappointed me too. And I was like, fuck yes. I love
it's a great speech.
Like holding your parents accountable for the values they expected out of you. Like that is great. And she walks away and is like, it's a very emotional scene. We've talked about it a bunch, but this is the one we're talking about where like they're both just crushing it. And Jerry's crushing it and has 0 lines. Like he's amazing. And Jennifer Grey is too.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Do they solve this problem immediately in the next scene? Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Literally she goes to, I think, Johnny's place. It's unclear. And he's like, oh, I've been looking for you everywhere. They found the Schumachers. They stole tons of wallets. They found like wallets on them. I'm off the hook for the wallets. She's like, oh my God, that's incredible. And he's like, but I'm still fired because I fucked you. So like, oops, but I will quietly get my bonus to go away. And she's like, then why the fuck did I do all that? Like, come on, like what the fuck? And this is where like he goes to try and talk to her dad to be like, baby actually tried to help me. Like you've raised a good daughter. She tried to do good by everybody here.
Yeah.
And he's like, aren't you the one who left a pregnant woman to a fucking butcher? And he's like, I guess that's what you would see, but doesn't tell him the truth. And it drove me nuts. I'm like,
I know.
It wasn't him.
To me, it was like the biggest, so fuck you, buddy. And honestly, like, you're fired. I'm never going to be able to have a relationship with baby because of the classism that exists in this country. And I get that. So like, you don't deserve the truth. Fuck off. Like, I kind of got it. Because he's on his way out never to return. Like, fuck everybody in this situation. You don't deserve the truth. You're always going to see me this way. Peace, I'm out.
Right.
But yeah, it is insane. If that was me, I'd be like, it wasn't mine, you fucking idiot. Like, God, doctors can be dumb. That's all I'm saying. I've met a bunch of doctors.
Well, I don't even think he's dumb because once he has the information, he's like, oh my God, I've made a terrible mistake.
I know. It's actually, his turn is so swift and genuine. I actually like really liked like a male role model showing that like he can say, I am wrong. I am sorry.
Right.
I understand now. I like love that in this movie. But he is sort of the villain until the very end, or one of them.
Right. But we cut to the talent show at the end. Her sister's doing bad.
Crushing it. She is just crushing it in her mind only. I really wish... You know, we've talked about like the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia dance sequence, like where they're doing this amazing dance and then it reveals that they're actually like doing the worst dance ever. I really want to see what she sees as her performance.
Oh.
Like I want to see how good it is in her mind.
Hilarious.
Because we are firmly an audience member watching the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia do that dance terribly the whole time.
That would be hysterical. But before she gets to dance, she's put in a corner. Nobody puts baby in a corner. And this is when her dad goes to give like an end of the summer tip to Robbie because he's been their waiter all summer.
Yes.
And as he goes to hand him the envelope, he's like, good luck in medical school. And Robbie goes, oh yeah, and thanks for taking care of that Penny thing. And he's like, what? And he's like, I thought baby told you. Yeah, I don't know if I was the father because I feel like she, girls like her. And he just snatches the money back.
She's like the resort bicycle or whatever. And he's like, but I guess guys like us will get into trouble every now and then is what he says. And then Jerry Orbach is like, fuck, no we don't, idiot. And he like snatches what I assume is probably a very hefty tip.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And just like pockets it. The one thing that I wish they had done is like establish where...
Is him giving it to Johnny?
No, well, okay, that would have been cool too. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But if it had also been established that he was going to intern at Jerry Orbach's practice.
Right.
And he was like, find a different internship.
Yes.
Because that would have been like financial security and like job security being sucked away from that guy. And I would have loved it. But that doesn't happen.
No.
But this is where Jerry Orbach goes on an immediate journey.
Yes.
Like over the course of a dance, the dude 180s super hard.
Now, he still doesn't want an older guy dating his daughter. Understandable. Because at this point, Johnny has arrived and it's like the scene in Sister Act 2 where it's like, teacher says, take off your robes. Where he's just like, guys, we're all going to do the new dance, right? Right? Ready? Okay. And then like he walks in and is like, nobody puts baby in a corner, and then gets up and makes a bonkers speech. A speech where he's like, I want to come up here with the best dancer and the nicest lady. And people are just like, what? And then he's like, Francis. And they're like, who is Francis? Like, what is happening?
It is really sweet. He like comes up on stage and like stops everyone from singing the sweet camp ending song or whatever.
That goes on for fucking ever. That song had like 12 verses.
They're really proud of this camp. Like you don't get this clientele without building this kind of community around it in a weird way. So I got it. But like he gets on stage and is like, hey, I always close out the last dance of the year. And yeah, I've been fired, but fuck my bonus. I'm dancing this one out with the best dancer in this place. And her name is Frances. And she taught me how to be a better person or whatever. Like that's it. And then he puts a record on and then it becomes 1987 and we start dancing to I Had the Time of My Life.
Right. Which I like they comment on it in this, and it's the dance you remember. It's great.
It's awesome.
But at one point, Mr. Kellerman leans over to the band leader and he's like, you got sheet music on this stuff? And he's like, no, this is a song from the 80s. I have no idea. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, this song is like, we don't love it, but our kids will love it. It's like the Back to the Future of it all.
Yeah, your kids will love it.
Because it is like, it's a song from 25 years in the future from this point, more or less. But you do see the band guy leading the band, and the band is playing along to the record that he put on.
Yes.
So like the band is playing. But guys, the song slaps so hard. The dance is so beautiful. He lifts her so well. Like it's everything you remember from this.
Right.
It's so good that you forget that like Johnny is going to jail shortly after this. You forget the song started on a record and you like stop wondering where the band is now if they were just playing on stage literally 2 seconds ago.
And then they somehow got off on stage even though they have instruments that they would have to move because they're off to the side.
Paige, it's insane. It is fully insane. When they show the last shot and the band's just not where they were, I'm like, what? Okay, whatever. The The song is great. I love it.
I do also love that we cut to her sister who cannot dance at all. Music is not her forte.
I know.
And it's all of the costumes of like Johnny's friends, straight up 80s. It's straight out of Thriller.
Yes. And they're doing like synchronized shoulder dances down the aisles. And I was like, this is what I'm here for.
Yes.
Give me a like Oliver style group dance where it's like 150 people doing the same dance. I'll lose my mind every time.
I mean, I think if you want the 80s version of that, it's The Wiz, and you're welcome.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
We didn't touch on it when we were going through the plot, but Jerry Orbach does come up to Johnny and he's like, I can admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong. You were right. I'm sorry. It's not stated, but very much don't date my daughter.
Yes.
Anyway, but that is the movie. Paige, having seen the movie and we talked about the movie, what did you think about Dirty Dancing?
Ooh, I still maintain that I like the sequel better. I understand that that may be an unpopular opinion. There are parts of this movie that I like better on a rewatch now as an adult than I did previously. I do think that tonally and pacing wise, it has some challenges. So it's not one that I'll return to frequently, but it's a classic for a reason.
Paige, it was $3.99 to rent or $4.99 to buy, and I bought this bish. And I'll watch it again. Like, it's not a bad movie. I do hate that she's 17. I cannot overstate that. I do really hate that. They also have chemistry, which kind of sucks when you have to talk about a movie that was made in the 80s that addresses a gross sort of age power dynamic in a weird way. But they're so good in it. Like, Patrick Swayze is so good. Jennifer Grey is so good. Jerry Orbach is so good. Like, it's just a good movie.
I can't wait to get to fun facts.
Well, Paige, I mean, I don't know if you know the structure of the show, but that's the next segment. So do you maybe want to hit us with your fun facts?
Dancing, fun facts. They hated each other. They hated each other the entire time on set.
I've heard that, and I've heard it's because Patrick Swayze is like, we're here to do a job. Let's not fuck around. Let's do the job.
Yeah.
And like, he's very serious about like, not like I'm a serious actor. I mean, like, let's nail what they want us to nail. Let's focus, right? And Jennifer Grey was more like giggling and like having a fun time on set. And I get the vibe that Patrick Swayze knows how to have a fun time, but doesn't feel like on set is the right time for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so they had like a confrontation. I think they actually had a confrontation on Red Dawn, which was the first movie they were together on.
Yes.
Yeah, I read an article on this, like, I think it was around the same time he passed.
Yes.
Because people were asking them questions about, or asking her questions about how she felt about Patrick Swayze.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, they hated each other on Red Dawn. Hated each other.
Yeah.
But she apparently had done so well in the audition, and they were like, she's one of the best dancers, like, for this. And Patrick Swayze, fantastic dancer, game recognized game. And so he had to convince her to be in a film, even though they didn't like each other.
That's awesome.
And so they did the screen test, and literally the directors and every casting were like, there's so much chemistry in this fucking screen test. It has to be them. And they literally, after the screen test, were like, no, fuck this. We don't want to make this movie together. We don't like each other. And the director was like, I swear on all that is fucking holy. You have to.
It'll literally make both of your careers, guys.
Well, her career has kind of a frustrating.
That is true, yeah.
Hiccup, I would say, because of some plastic surgery stuff. But
yeah,
like the director sat them down and made them watch their own screen test.
No shit. That's great.
I was like, please tell me you fucking see this, right? Come on. And so they agreed to do the movie, did not like each other the whole time. And before romantic scenes, they would sit down and watch their own screen test and then go back and film, which is bonkers. Like, that's so crazy. For the amount of movies we have with just no chemistry at all, where the people in the movie genuinely do like each other, versus this, where you're just like, oh my God, it pops off the screen. And then you're like, they hated each other. You're like, they're great actors, I think, maybe.
I mean, they definitely are great actors because there is chemistry in this movie.
Yeah.
I got the vibe from the article I read that they had a lot of mutual respect for each other, but didn't like the way they worked.
Yes.
Like, didn't love the way they approached what they did for a job, right?
Yes.
Because she thought he was like too uptight and he thought she fucked around too much, more or less.
Yeah.
But like, I do think deep down they were like, they're hot though. They are hot. Like, they are attractive and I get it. Like, I got chemistry with that person because yes, would shag. hate them as a person, though.
I mean, there are people that I respect their work, but we don't necessarily get along. But like within that, it's like, yeah, okay, but like I'll put up with a certain amount of bullshit because I know they're good at what they do. Like,
right.
And I think that's probably kind of how it went. He did do all of his own stunts. And the dance that they did for the screen test was the one that precedes the sex scene, the first one. It wasn't supposed to be in the movie.
Oh, really?
They had choreographed it and done that scene just for screen tests to try and kind of get a sense.
Yeah.
I think the dialogue was there, but the dance wasn't. And that's the dance that they were like, oh my God, like, come on, like you gotta do the movie. And so they, would continually show it to them. Now, I have heard conflicting reports on Baby's age because Jennifer Grey was 26, 27, and a lot of articles list that as 8 years older than Baby, which would then put her at like 18, 19, but like she says 17 in the movie. So I think people are just bad at...
Unless she's lying when she answers that question, she's 17.
Yeah, I think people just be bad at math.
Yeah.
So the Pembroke, which is the Virginia resort where many of the Kellerman scenes were filmed, hosts 3 Dirty Dancing themed weekends a year, which includes dinners, a dance, a screening of the movie, a watermelon toss, group dance lessons, and a Dirty Dancing scavenger hunt, which are all items on the agenda if you pay for that weekend.
Okay.
The character of Johnny was also specifically supposed to be Italian, because in the 60s, being Italian was not the same as being white.
It wasn't, which is like crazy.
Oh, hey, I mean, look, we're recording this right after the inauguration. Some real racist shit went down. And I logged onto Twitter today and there was Italian racism coming back. And I was like, y'all, it's only been like 2 days. Anyway,
I mean,
it's bad.
Paige, yeah, it's getting bad out here in the streets. Yeah.
It's getting bad in the streets. But that's what they originally had. They also had kind of race at the time, because Italian would have not been considered white at the time. They had that as an element. That is something that comes in the sequel where it's Diego Luna. And so there is also a cultural and racial divide in the sequel. And I do think it actually plays really well in the sequel.
I mean, there's a class divide in this. I feel like from what you've told me, it does seem like the second Dirty Dancing plays with a lot of the themes that are in this movie.
Yes.
But it does the classism of it all more. It like plays it up more.
Yeah, more. And I think because they dial down the age difference, it brings it more into focus and it doesn't make you ick sometimes.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
Yeah. Patrick Swayze co-wrote and sung She's Like the Wind, which does become one of the singles off of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
There you go.
She broke some wind between her cheeks. She broke some wind. Sorry, go ahead.
So Baby's mother was originally a different actress. In fact, she filmed some of the scenes. She can be seen in the front seat of the car for a few seconds. Her blonde hair is the only indication, but she became ill during the first week of shooting and was replaced by Kelly Bishop, who had already been cast to play Vivian Pressman, the resort bunny. So because she moved into that role, the film's assistant choreographer, Miranda Garrison, took on the part of Vivian Pressman because she could dance it.
She's not even an actress?
Yeah.
Amazing. That's awesome. Everyone's like, oh, wait, the mom got sick? Everyone's getting promoted one level.
Right. Yeah, we just shifted it up.
That's amazing.
Yeah. The director, Emil Ardolino, also directed Flashdance. And so he only wanted experienced dancers in the film to avoid the problems of using dance doubles, which is a thing in Flashdance. And that's part of why they were so focused on Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze, but also why when the mom kind of moves, they moved the assistant choreographer in for Vivian Pressman, because then they didn't have to train somebody to dance or do any dance doubles, because Mrs. Pressman actually does dance.
Yeah, so she's actually credited as dancer in Dirty Dancing Havana Nights.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Even better.
So she's not Miss Pressman, but she is in it, which is interesting. I love that.
Patrick Swayze's also in it.
Great.
There's a whole bunch of people in the series.
Is he Johnny?
No, it's a different character, because it takes place only a couple years away from when this movie takes place, just in Havana.
Nice. Okay.
Because it takes place during the revolution.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds awesome. We should do that soon. I want to see that movie.
Dude, I fucking love Dirty Dancing Havana Nights. I stand. So rehearsals quickly became parties involving nearly every cast member because everyone could dance. And the dancing and drinking became a bit of a problem. So they encouraged it because they wanted like them to improvise their dances and to kind of create that sexual atmosphere.
Sure, yeah.
Now, there was also a rule, though, that no matter how intimate or grinding the dance steps were, the dancers were not supposed to have any other kind of physical contact with each other for the duration of filming. So like you would get up and just grind on your dance partner and then you couldn't even hug them or anything later.
You can only grind privates on camera. Thank you so much.
You can only grind privates on camera. So I'm sure that probably added to some of the like aura of the movie.
The horniness of the dancing.
The horniness of the dancing. Now, in an interview in 2008 with the screenwriter Eleanor Bergstein, the characters of Baby and Johnny are influenced by her biography. Baby is kind of her analog in the movie,
Sure.
and it is the Catskills in the 60s. Her father was a doctor. They called her Baby till she was 22 years old.
Wow, okay.
And her real name is Frances, so it's mostly her. But she was also a really good dancer and later became an Arthur Murray instructor. So like,
oh, awesome.
Both Baby and Johnny are kind of influenced by her a little bit. Now, at the time, Jennifer Grey was dating Matthew Broderick, who she had met while filming Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
And they were about to go on a publicity tour when they were in a head-on collision in their rental car in Ireland,
Yeah.
in which a mother and daughter died this same year. So, yeah, she was also in the car when that happened, which is brutal.
Hey, anyone want to guess what character in relationship to Ferris Bueller Jennifer Grey played in that movie?
She's the older sister.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he was dating his sister. It's fine. Let's not think about it.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, same thing happened on Dexter.
That's so true, actually. Yeah.
Okay. I'll leave you with this one because
Okay.
I think it's one of the most unhinged.
Hell yeah.
Jane Brucker, who plays Baby's older sister Lisa, co-wrote the song Hula Hana, but did not receive credit for writing the song until 2002 during a release on DVD.
That sounds like she submitted that fact, is all I'm saying.
And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. So what do you think the production budget was for Dirty Dancing back in 1987?
It is largely single location in that they probably rented a resort and filmed it there, which can make things cheaper. It's more something that we see on Horror Virgin all the time for camp movies. Like that's how Benson and Moorhead made The Endless for so cheap, and how the original Sleepaway Camp was made. But I'm going to say that in 1987, this probably cost $15 million.
Oh, Paige. It was $4.5 million. Actually, there's some dispute. Some sources say $6 million.
Okay.
Jennifer Grey has said in interviews that the budget was $4.5 million.
Somewhere in there.
I don't really know. It's in there, but if Jennifer Grey was right at $4.5 million, that would be around 12.5 today, if you adjust for inflation.
That's probably why we don't have as much commitment to the time. That's probably why it doesn't, because it does cost money to make things look old. That's why Stranger Things is so expensive. Because you got to find and source a bunch of old things.
Yeah, you have to if you want to show the street, you have to find 50 cars from the 60s.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
that kind of budget.
It's that kind of budget. So that doesn't surprise me knowing that. It looks good for $4 million as far as the dancing sequences, because those are also expensive to film.
Yeah.
Because you can't just steady cam that shit. You got to actually film it. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, I think it's great. Anyway, so the movie came out the weekend of August 21st, 1987. It was fourth in the theaters when it came out. It was beat by Stakeout was number 1. Number 2 was Born in East LA. Number 3 was a movie we've done on this podcast, Can't Buy Me Love. Number 4, of course, was Dirty Dancing, and number 5 was No Way Out. Also in the theaters, number 7 was La Bamba, number 8 was Lost Boys, number 9 was RoboCop, number 11 was Predator. It was 80s. They had some hits, guys. There were some great movies that came out in the 80s. Anyway, Paige, what do you think Dirty Dancing made in its opening weekend, the weekend of August 21st, 87?
87, I'm going to say it made $3 million opening weekend.
Paige, that is such a great guess, but it did a little bit better. It was $3.9 million.
Okay.
Now, it was in the theaters for 25 consecutive weeks. It ran from August 21st, 87 until February 5th, or the weekend of February 5th, 1988. In its first week, like I said, it was 4th. In its second week, it was 3rd. In its third week, it was number 2. In its fourth week, it was number 2. And then it started to drop out, but it stayed in the top 10 until its 12th week when it fell to 12th. And then went back into the top 10 until its 17th week. This movie had like crazy staying power. And I think it's just because a lot of people got taken on dates to see this movie.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like it just nailed that market. Anyway, Paige, what do you think it made in the domestic box office performance when it was in theaters?
Ooh, in theaters, I think this was in theaters for a lot longer than movies are now. And it also, as a fun fact, was one of the first movies to sell $100 million in a home market. So even if it didn't make back its budget in the theaters, which I'm sure it did.
Oh, it did in its second week. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it is the first film to sell 1 million copies on home video. So,
oh my God. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to say this comes out to like 70 million.
Paige, that's really close. It was technically $63.8 million, although it also brought in $150 million internationally. So in 1987, this movie brought in $213 million. Now, if you adjust that for inflation, that's almost $600 million today. It's technically $590.6 million.
Ooh.
That's a lot of money. To bring in $213 on a $4.5 million budget, that's crazy good.
Yeah. That is really good. I mean, no wonder they tried to do a sequel and Patrick Swayze said no. So like, that's why it took so long for them to do a sequel.
Yeah.
But if memory serves, even the sequel did well in the box office, if I remember correctly.
Oh, and we'll cover it when we cover that movie, I'm sure. But like, well, the figures I just gave you don't incorporate any of what Paige said about the home market. Like, I don't have any of that data. So like, it made money on top of that. So yeah, this movie was a smash hit. Anyway, Paige, that's your box office. Do you want to hit him with that romance scale?
Our romance scale is a scale of 1 to 4 because Mikey said so. Todd, how romantic did you find this movie today?
I am legally obligated to give this movie a 1 because of the legal implications of their relationship. But they do have some chemistry, guys. I hate it, but they do have some chemistry.
Yeah. I'm going to give this one a 1 as well because of the age factor. There is a lot of chemistry, though. I'll give it a 1 on the roar scale as well.
Yeah, but for the same reasons. Like, if you had just, like, implied that she was 18, and I think, like, just, like, maybe make her 18, and it's great, you know?
Yeah.
Or make him 19. Like, just lie to me. Tell me that guy is 19.
I mean, do what it is in the sequel where they are basically the same age.
Would love. But that's your romance scale, guys. But this week, Paige, you made us watch Dirty Dancing. What is the next movie we're going to be doing for our Dance Dance Revolution month?
Oh my God, we're doing Honey, starring Jessica Alba.
I don't even know I've never heard of this.
Honey was a movie that came out right around the time that Step Up came out, and Jessica Alba was coming off of TV, starting to become famous, and it's like known for being bad, but they tried to push it really hard at the time. So it'll be 2003's Honey in the category Dance Romance. It is 1 hour and 34 minutes long. You can find it on Amazon, Apple TV, Fandango at home, and Google Play.
Man, I cannot wait to see this for the first time and shout about it with you next week. But check back for that episode.
Hey, Todd, do you have any reviews for us?
I do. In fact, I have been neglecting our actual reviews that we get every week on Apple. So I'm going to read one today from Amy in Virginia. That's her name. And they say, Grease 2. I love this podcast, but the Grease 2 episode is my absolute favorite. Fun fact, my senior year in high school, a group of us senior girls actually did the entire Girl for All seasons in our school's stunt talent show.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing back those embarrassing memories. Amy, that sounds amazing. I want to see pictures of the Christmas dress and the cocktail dress if you did it, because that junk is amazing in that movie. I also want to read this very quick Spotify comment from King Spearman 19, who just says, bikes? And that's it.
I know exactly what he was referring.
Yeah.
Bikes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you guys want to leave us a Spotify comment and or 5-star Apple review, I'll read that just like I did. King Spearman 19 and Amy in Virginia, thank you so much for your submissions this week.
Bikes.
So yeah, if you guys like this show and want to hear our other show where we talk about horror movies, that is The Horror Virgin. That's the only other podcast I am on, but Paige is also on Cult Podcast, which you can find at Cult Podcast. And you can find us on social media. I am at Todd J. Awesome, literally everywhere. Paige is at Paige Wesley on Instagram.
No, it's at Rampage Wesley on Instagram and TikTok, at Paige Wesley on Twitter.
That's right. All right. So that's where you can find Paige. If you want to find the show, we are at Romancing the Pod Show, right?
Yep. Romancing Pod Show on Twitter.
Well, and Instagram, right?
And Instagram, but it's show SHO because character limits. If you start typing Romancing the Pod, it'll come up.
It'll definitely come up on Instagram. I don't know about Twitter because I haven't posted on Twitter in a hot ass minute. So who knows? But that is where you can find more of us. So yeah, guys, give us a follow. Support the show any way you can. We'd love it.
Smash that like button.
Hell yeah.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
And I'm Todd.
And you complete us.
Bike completion. Patrick Swayze is very sweaty this whole movie, nerds.
I would lick it off.
Gross.
La 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 la.